Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. I have another bag for you today. If you're sick of bags, let me know. I'll change it up and do something else. But with all the sample fabric I seem to be doing so many of them for the shop. Today's bag is going to be a wine bottle bag. You're going to be able to carry at least 4 bottles of wine in there, and they won't be clunking around. We're using a denim fabric, but any heavyweight fabric is going to work, whether you use upholstery fabric, duck, drill, denim, something that's good and solid, because it's going to carry the weight of quite a few bottles. Come along and we'll make this bag together. There's really not much we need for this bottle bag. I've got 2 pieces of webbing or strapping for the handle. This is 2.5 centimetres wide or 1 inch by 55 centimetres in length or 21.5 inches. The measurements should be on the screen in a few seconds. I'm working with denim today, so I've got a couple of rolls of denim to use up. This long piece is 90 by 45 centimetres or 18 by 36 inches. You don't actually have to have these exact measurements either. You can make the bag as tall or short as you like. If you wanted it shorter, it would be great for, those little stubby bottles or even coffee cups. Then I want 2 pocket pieces for the inside, which is what's going to hold the bottles. They're 48 by 25 centimetres or 19 by 10 inches. If you don't have access to webbing, then cut yourself a length of fabric for the handles and 4 inches wide. You'll fold the raw edges in and then you'll fold it in half again and sew down both long edges to make your handles. Okay, let's get started. This is so simple. Let's take our pocket pieces, and with both pocket pieces on the long side, we're going to mark a line that is 2 centimetres from the outside edge or 3/4 of an inch, and we're going to do that on both sides. Even with these measurements here, there's no hard and fast rule as to what your measurement needs to be. I've really just plucked figures out of my head. So we'll do that for both pieces of fabric, and what we're going to do is take the raw edge and just fold that to the line. You can press it. I decided to use the iron, so fold that edge over and press that in place, and then we can fold it over one more time. Once that side's done, flip it around and do exactly the same for the other side, and you'll do the same for the other piece as well. With these 2 pieces folded over, we can set that aside, and then we'll take our main piece of fabric. Before we fold the edges over on the longer piece of denim, we're going to take this to the overlocker and neaten up the raw edges on the long side only. Let's go and do that quickly. Okay, very simple, just straight down. I'm only using 3 threads for this because I was just a little bit too lazy to put the extra needle in my machine. I think I've got the needle on the right hand side rather than the left, so it's only doing a narrow overlock, but it really doesn't matter whether you use 3 or 4 thread, makes no difference. I'm not securing my stitches to anything, just neatening up the edge of the fabric. All right, the long edges are nice and neat now. What we can do now is get the short edge ready for the handles and folding. Fold it in half lengthwise, and from the centre measure out 6 centimetres or 2.5 inches. Again, this doesn't have to be precise. You can space your handles as far apart as you like, but we'll put a pin in both sides of the fabric, and that will be where our handles are positioned. Bring the other end up, and you can transfer those pin markings to the other short end. With your handle now, take the side edge and place that to the side of the pin. So we don't want to centre it over the pin. We want to actually space the handle right beside the pin. Follow the edge of the handle around and bring that up beside the other pin. And then just double check that your handle's nice and even and not twisted. We'll do the same for the other end. And I've lost a pin. That's not a problem. I can just line up the edge of the fabric here and bring the other handle across to meet the one opposite. Now open out your bag. We're going to fold the short edges over, and we're going to create a double fold just like we did on that pocket section. So we'll fold the fabric over 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch, and then we'll fold it over again. So to make it easier for yourself, measure a line across the whole width, 5 centimeters from the top or 2 inches. Again, there's no hard and fast rule about this either. Bring the raw edge up to that fold, press that in place, and then we will fold this again. I have to reposition those pins. So we'll fold this over one more time. I've brought the raw edge of my handles just a little bit up from the raw edge at the top there. Makes it easier to fold over. All right, we've got that double fold of 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters each, and we've got the handle tucked away underneath. You need to bring the handle to the top. Just bring that up over the fold and clip it back in place. And you're going to have a handle that is never going to come off. Soon we'll take this to the machine. We're going to sew all the way along the bottom end, and then we'll do the top edge as well. Let's do the same for the other end. So again, we've got 5 centimeters or 2 inches. Okay, once you've got both handles secured and your edges folded under twice, double check the position of your handle. So if you line up the side edges of your bag and just bring that edge over, make sure your handles are nicely lined up. And you also want to double check these widths here. If you bring the folded edges together at the top there, have a look underneath and just double check that your folds are the same width. There's not much of a difference, but I will fix that. And you don't have to go and remeasure. All you need to do is just manipulate the fabric so that the two sides meet. Okay, we are now ready to take everything to the machine. We're going to sew along the top edge of our bag twice. So the bottom edge, the top edge, triple stitch the handles. Then we'll take our pocket sections and we're going to sew that double folded hem down on both sides. Let's get the pocket sections out of the way first. There's nothing special you need to do here. It's just a matter of sewing some straight lines from one end all the way down to the other. Backstitch at the beginning and the end, but even that's not critical. Once you've done both sides of one pocket section, you'll do the other. And the main piece of fabric that's got the handles on it, start on the bottom fold with your back stitch. Don't forget to triple stitch over your handles when you come to them. Continue on to the end. And then when you do your top stitch, just come down about 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters from the top edge. And you can flip it around and repeat that all over again. Now that we have our pocket pieces finished and the fold over done on the top of the bag, we're ready to put these pockets in place. Measure across the width of your bag and find the centre. And we're going to mark that with a line all the way down to the other end. So you can just make a few marks and then connect the dots. Now that centre line is going to help us place our pocket. So what you need to do with the pocket is fold that in half, find the centre, mark a crease, and place that centre line directly over the centre line that we've marked. And you will position that 8 centimetres or 3 inches from the top edge. Before we do that though, we need to mark a couple of other lines so that we can tuck away the raw edge of our pockets. So what we've done so far is marked a centre line, and then we've marked 2 lines to either side of that with our seam allowance. So the reason we haven't gone and made proper measurements from outside in is because everybody's going to have their own seam allowance, and you're also likely to have your own sized bag. So this is how to work it out when you don't really have any dimensions. So what I've done, centre line, I've marked my seam allowance to the outside of that. Take this edge here and fold that over to that seam allowance line here. So you'll see here I've got the centre line, and then I've got an overlap, which is 1 centimetre or 3/8 of an inch. I've then gone and pressed that edge all the way down. I have used the iron for that because I wanted to set a really nice crease. On the other side I've done the same. We've marked that 3/8 inch line or 1 centimetre. Fold that over so that it goes just past the centre line, and pressed that in place as well. So now we have the 2 edges bored into the centre, and there's quite a big gap there, which is the equivalent of our seam allowance for when we sew these ends together later. Before we do that, we're now going to place our pocket piece down. So we've got the centre marked, we have our centre line here. These markings I've used, they're done with washout pens or fade out pens, so nothing's permanent. From the top edge, we'll come down 8 centimetres or 3 inches. Again, that can be whatever you like, but you don't want to go too far down because we've got folds in the fabric at the bottom. Once you're happy with that, pin that in place. And for the pocket piece, all we're doing is sewing straight down that centre, back stitch at the top and the bottom. Don't worry about these side flaps for now. Do the same for this end. Now, rather than taking you with me, I'll just take this to the machine quickly and sew both pocket pieces in place. All right, with our pocket section sewn in place in the centre on both sides of the bag, we're now going to bring the top section of the bag together. So we're folding it in half until the top of the bag meets, and press that along the centre bottom there. So give that a really good firm press. That'll just help with your guidelines. Once you've marked the centre with a crease, then we're going to measure from the bottom of our bag, grab some pins, and from the bottom of the bag we're going to measure up 8 centimetres or 3 inches. I'll just pop a pin in along the side there of the top layer. Do the same at this end. Flip your bag over and pop a pin on this side as well. Oh, every time I use pins I get stabbed. So we've got our fold at the very bottom of the bag, and then we've come up 8 centimetres or 3 inches on each side. Take the top edge of your bag and bring that down to meet up with the pin here, and I'll pin that in place. Oh, I got caught on the other end now as well. Oh, these pins are so sharp. So what we've done is we've folded the top layer of the bag back toward us, and then we can flip it over, and we have that 8 centimetre fold, centre line here, that 8 centimetre or 3 inch fold, and then we'll bring the other end of the bag up to meet it. So you're now going to have your bag inside out, and we'll just pin that for the time being. We've still got our pocket flaps unstitched. We've got a fold along the bottom, so this one here is the centre crease, and then we've folded the edges over. I'm going to go and press this because I want to set a crease, but we're not going to sew at this point. So I've got all my folds in place here. I'm just going to press that That'll set a crease so that it remembers where it needs to be. And once I've done those bottom edges, I'll open that out and just do this centre fold as well. I just want to make sure this has got really defined creases for when we finish up the bag. Keep in mind where your other creases are too though. You might want to repress those. I've repressed the other folds as well. Now that we've got the folds pressed here on the base of the bag, we've also got the sides folded as well. We can start putting this together. With the pocket section here, bring the raw edges over to the fold. And remember we had 8 centimetres or 3 inches from the top. You want to make sure that's the same as it is in the centre. And when you're happy with that, line up the raw edge on that fold that we creased earlier. Bring that fold over and we'll clip that in place. If I use any more pins, I'll probably bleed to death. And repeat for the other side. Line up the raw edge on that fold and measure your 8 centimetres or 3 inches. And we're going to repeat that for the other end. All right, we have the pockets secured inside the folded edge of the back and front of our bag. And I've just drawn these lines in so that you can see where those folds are that we did earlier. So what we've done is we've folded wrong side together and then we folded right side out, okay, on both sides. We're now going to sew all the way down these 2 long edges to secure the pocket in place on both sides, and then you'll have your little wine bottle holders there. So we'll do that before we close up the side seam and before we do the boxing at the bottom. If you do a 3/8 inch seam or 1 centimetre, it'll be a top stitch all the way down. That will make sure that you catch the edges of the pocket fabric as well as securing everything in place. When you get to the section at the top and bottom, you'll feel the bump here. I like to triple stitch over that, so I'll come down, back and down again and continue to the end of that section, triple again, and then I'll come back down to this side, same thing at both top and bottom, and then I'll repeat that for the other side of the bag. Let's take that to the machine. So now we're sewing from the outside of the bag. Make sure it lines up at the very top edge there. I'm going to start with my needle down probably about 1/4 inch, 6 millimetres in from the top edge. I'll put my needle down there, then I'll back stitch and come forward again. That'll help prevent the fabric from shifting as I start sewing. So I place the needle down, then that's kept everything secure. I'll back stitch and sew all the way to the end. When you come to the pocket, just feel with your fingers just to make sure that you actually have the pocket caught up in the side edge. And hopefully by the time you get to the top, that's all nicely lined up as well. And we'll repeat for the other side. So I've lined that up again at the top, made sure my needle is in the down position so that it keeps the fabric together before I start my back stitch. Okay, our pockets are in place now. They're nice and secure, caught up in that fold on the very edge there. So looking at it from the front, we've got our centre fold, our crease along here, another crease here. Bring those edges together. Don't worry about how it looks in the centre. It's a little bit of a jumbled mess. Line up the top edge of your fabric. I should have tucked these raw edges from the overlocking inside the fold of the fabric earlier, but that's fine, I can live with that. And then the folded edges here, we'll bring those together, line that up, and that should be nice and even with that center fold that we've got underneath, and repeat for the other side. Okay, both sides are now ready to be sewn in place. I'm going to start at the top edge, not the bottom. The reason I like to start at the top is so that I can make sure that these edges at the top here are nice and straight. If I start at the bottom, it may kink and end up being out of alignment. So I'll start at the top here, sew all the way down. When you get to this section where the folds are, you can triple stitch that and repeat for the other side as well. Then our bag is done. Because I forgot to get rid of these threads, I'm just going to tuck them under and sew over them when I get to them. I'm going to do the same as I did before, put my needle down first before I start sewing, then I'll backstitch and then I'll go forward. Those overlocked threads that I forgot to tuck away earlier, I'll stitch over those a couple of times as well, just to tidy it up a bit. I should have tucked those under earlier. And repeat for the other side. And there we have our wine bottle bag completely finished. Now, before I turn it the right way around, with the folds that we've done for the boxing, you'll see that underneath we've got this folded section here, kind of looks a bit like a boat. So I'll show you the other side. So from the outside, this is how your corner's going to look. You'll have a nice flat bottom there, and on the side of your bag you're going to have those triangles poking up. But here we have our slots for the wine bottles. Let me go get some wine. I happened to walk by my West German pottery as I was heading to the wine rack. I collect West German pottery. So this is a perfect pocket for lugging around your pottery if you choose. Got a few bottles of wine in there. It's nice and secure. You want to, of course, have a really good sturdy fabric. You're going to be able to carry your wine bottles even in on the sides here. I reckon we'd probably get another 1 or 2 bottles in the side there, or you can just pop your purse in there. So that's come up pretty well, I think. Nice and sturdy. You've got your handles on the side there. The folded edges just give the bag a good solid structure. So what did you think of that project? You'll notice that I haven't lined this fabric and I've left the raw edges on the inside, but I feel like it didn't really need to be lined, and as long as the edges are nice and neat, it's fine. If you don't like raw edges on the inside because it is just the one side seam, then you can go and do French seams and then go and close up the bag as you normally would. It certainly holds a lot of weight there. I've got, what, 3 bottles and a vase in here. And I think it'll easily carry another 1 or 2 bottles on the side. I love my West German pottery. I've got loads of it. So when I walked past it, I thought, yeah, you'll fit. So there we go. Have a look on the inside. You've got all those little pockets just in there, and they just sit up nice and securely. This will be a great bag to take away with you on picnics as well. If you're going picnicking, you can pop your wine in there. Hiking, pop your water bottles in there. You could probably even put some ice packs down on the side there where you don't have the bottles. Actually, that's not a bad idea at all. Lots of uses. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now. Before I go, I thought I'd quickly show you some of my West German pottery. I like them in groups of 3. I think they look great with the blue background. So in my view, the uglier the better for my collection. So I have a few more, but these are just my favourite ones. I hope you've enjoyed that little tour.